Now we look at a linear equation system. And what does that mean? It means you have several linear equations you want to solve at the same time. So several should be true at the same time. For example, let's take a concrete example. Let's say that we have a farmer. He wants to load his cart with bags of we want to fill with bags of, on the one hand, with apples, on the other hand, bags with bananas, for example. So let's say that we have a bag with apples weighs 5 kilograms, and a bag of bananas weighs 2 kilograms. Okay, he has room for 200 bags in this cart. Okay, and you want to have a total load of 550 kilos. So let's assume that the whole total weight here is now 550 kilos of cargo. Then we want to find out how many bags of apples and bananas must he have. Okay, so let's say here we have X bags of bananas, or apples, and Y bags of bananas. Okay, then what is the total weight? 550 kilos. How much is the weight of the apples? Yeah, he has X bags of apples, and each bag weighs 5 kilograms. So the total weight of the apples is 5 times X. And he has Y bags of bananas, and each bag of banana weighs 2 kilograms. So the total weight of the bananas is this. If you add the total weight of bananas and apples, they should equal to 550. So on the other hand, we know that X plus Y, the total number of bags, should equal to 200. So you have these two pieces of information. The total weight is 550 and that the total number of bags 200. And we know the weights of the bag separately, 5 and 2 kilograms. Can we from that figure out how many bags of bananas and apples he has? That means we want to solve these two equations at the same time. So it's not, we're not only looking for solutions to one of them, but both at the same time, meaning that the X here and here should be the same X, Y here and here should be the same Y, and those should satisfy both equations at the same time. So we want to find an X and Y that makes both of these true at the same time. Okay, now there are techniques for solving linear equation systems like this. This is called a linear equation system. The different methods. Okay, let us first look at substitutional method. Okay, so here we have our two equations. And substitution means that we take one of the equations. Let's take the first one. We see that if this should be true, then we must have that Y is equal to 200 minus X. So if the first one should be true, then we know that the number of bags of bananas should equal to 200 minus the number of bags of apples. And let us now substitute this into the second equation, because this is the condition of the first equation being true. And let's now use that into the second equation. So we substitute Y in the second equation with this. So the second equation then becomes 2 times 200 minus X equal to 550. 50. So now we have the second equation here. Now we see that we only have one unknown. From the beginning we have two unknowns, but in this equation we only have one unknown. So this is just a normal linear equation, so that we can solve normally. So we multiply in 2 here. And then we get 3x. And we move over 400 to the other side and we get 150. And we divide both sides by 3, then we get 50. So we see that if both should be true, then x must be 50. So the number of bags of apples must be 50. And then we can use the other expression here we had here to figure out what y must be. Then it's 200 minus 50. So there's 150. So now we know the solution. That the only solutions that make this possible, this situation possible, is that we have 50 bags of apples and 150 bags of bananas. So this is how we can solve this equation system using substitution method. Then there are two other methods called addition method and subtraction method. They are very similar, but let's now look at them each. Okay, the idea here is now to add these two equations so that one of these unknown disappears. So let us first manipulate one of the equations so that when we add these two, that all the y's will disappear. Okay, so how can we change the first equation to make this happen? We rewrite it as the following. We multiply both sides of that with minus 2. So we multiply the first equation with minus 2. Then we will get this. And we keep the second one intact. Okay, then we get minus 2x minus 2y equal to minus 400. Now we see the point of that. Now we see that if we add these two equations, these y's will disappear or cancel, since the same but with different signs. If we add the left-hand side of that with left-hand side of that, what do we get then? Okay, so add this side and this side. If we want this to be equal to that and this to be equal to that, then adding these two sides must be the same as adding these two sides. Since that equal to that side and that equal to that side, then adding these two sides must be the same as adding these two sides. So if we have a solution, then x and y, this must be true also. And now we see that this cancels to that. And here we have left 3x. On this side we have 100, but not 100, but because we had 550 there. And if we divide both sides by 3, then we get 50. So you see that we must have x equal to 50. And now we can just use use one of the original equations, for example, or any of the equations, to figure out what y must be. So we have x plus y equals 200. And we know this is 50. And then we see that y must be equal to 150. So you see that we have the same solutions here as with the substitution method. So it's called addition method since we add two of the equations and then one of the unknowns cancel. The substitution method works exactly the same way, but instead of adding the two equations, we subtract. So let's say, for example, that we want to subtract the first one from the second one. It doesn't matter which one we subtract from which. The only point here is that we want one of the unknown to disappear. Last time we made y disappear. Now we can just as well make x disappear, for example. So if we take the second one and subtract this one, x's should disappear. So if we multiply the first one with 5, then we get this equation. I multiply both sides by 5, then I get the first one becomes this. And now I can subtract. I subtract the first one from the second one. Or I can just as well take the first one and subtract the second one. Seems easier since we got a positive number. So I take the left hand side here, subtract the left hand side there. And that must be the same as taking this right hand side, subtracting that right hand side, since the two sides are equal. Okay, removing the parentheses. And now we see that the x is cancelled, as we prepared for also. This is 3y 450. So we see that y, if we divide both sides by 3, y is 150. And then we can use again the first equation here, for example. We could just as well use this one, but it seems more complicated to use that one. So let's take the first one and figure out what x must be. And then we see that x must be 50. Yet again. So we see that this is subtraction method. It's very similar to addition method. So which one of these three should you use? Yeah, you should be able to know all of them, be capable of all three, but depends on the situation. Sometimes one is easier than the other. Depends on the exact form of the equations. Sometimes it's really lined up for using subtraction. Sometimes it's lined up for using addition. So use the one easiest, gives you the solution quickest.